In this video, it's going to be up to you to wire up the list command. The list command is the easiest of all of the commands we've created and will create, so let's go ahead and get to it. Goal, wire up the command. There's no options required for this. Step 1, you're going to create and export a list notes function from inside of notes.js, which will be called in the correct command handler over here in app.js. Now, what is list notes going to do? Well, it's going to use console.log to print all of the notes to the terminal. First up, you can print a header for the list, say something like your notes, and you can use chalk to style it in whatever looks good to you. Pick your favorite color. And then below that, you want to print out each note title. And you can just print it using a for each loop. So for each note, go ahead and log the title property. Now, once you have that in place, as I already mentioned, make sure to actually call it from the command handler, and finally test your work. Now, with my current data, I just have a single note, so I would expect to see 2 lines print down below. I would expect to see your notes styled using chalk as ever I desire. Then below that, I would expect to see all of the notes listed. In this case, I just have 1, so I would see just that one. I'm going to go ahead and add a second one real quick so we have some more interesting data. Right here, I'll go ahead and add course ideas as a note, and I'll leave the body empty, which is perfectly fine. So now that we have this in place, we have a second note showing up in the data, giving us some more interesting output when we actually write and test the list command. Take as much time as you need to knock this one out, test your work, and when you're done, come back and click play. All right, let's get to it. We're going to kick things off in notes.js, creating that list notes function. I can add this wherever I'd like. I'm going to put it right below remove note. So a new const list notes. And from now on, we'll be sticking with arrow functions when we can. And in this case, we can indeed use an arrow function. Now, we can't use the shorthand syntax, but that's okay. List notes isn't going to take in any arguments, but we do need to export it. So down below, I'll be setting up list notes, and the value for that property will come from the list notes variable defined up above, making sure we can actually use it in other files. Now let's go ahead and call list notes in app.js. So we have our handler down below. It is the third command we set up. Currently, it just says listing out all the notes. We're going to remove that, and we're going to add a call to notes.list notes. Excellent. Now that we have this in place, we've technically done steps 1 and steps 2, but we haven't finished up step 1, so let's actually define the function. Over here, we're going to go through the process of first printing our title. And for this one, I'm going to use console.log to print the your notes message, and I'll use chalk, and I'm just going to inverse the colors, if I can ever spell it correctly, and I will print your notes. The exact styling you used wasn't important. You could go with whatever you wanted. And next up, we have to print something for each note. Now, we don't have the notes. We have to load them using the load notes function. So we're going to add that first. Right here, const notes equals a call to load notes. So we're getting the return value back, our array of notes, and we're storing it in that notes variable. Down below, we can now use notes.forEach to do something for each note. In this case, what are we going to do? Well, we'll define that in our function down below. This function gets called one time for each note with the individual note object. And I mentioned I just wanted you to print the title. So console.log note.title is going to get the job done. Now that we have this in place, we're actually done, and we can move on to step 3 and test our work. I'm going to make sure all my files are saved down below. That's going to be node app.js list. This should list out all of the notes. Right here, what do I get? I get your notes undefined and undefined. So I am not seeing the individual note titles, and I can see right away that's because I've misspelled title. Now, once again, I'm going to leave this typo in, proving that not everyone's perfect, and most errors are related to small changes. Out of all of the questions I get in the Q&A, I'd say maybe 50 or 60% are just small one-line typos. So right here, I will simply fix my code. I'll rerun the command again, and now we're getting the results we expected. I have my styled title, and I have my 2 items showing up down below, matching up with the 2 notes I have in my JSON file. That is it for this quick video in creating the list command. In the next one, we are going to create the last command we need for this application. That is the read command. I'm excited to get to that. So let's go ahead and jump right in to the next one.